Hi, I'm Susan Ritchie. I'm the Ohio Meadville representative on the Board of Trustees, and we wanted to share with you a little bit of our Vespers service from our opening meeting here at the October session. We began with an opening reading that I like very much. It's from Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi is the 12th century Muslim who really put together a lot of the theology that we now associate with Rumi. This is what he said. My heart is capable of many forms. It can become a field for gazelles. It can become a cloister for monks. It is a Kaaba for the circling pilgrim. It is the scroll of the Quran. It is a table for the Torah. My creed is love. I will follow the caravan of love wherever it leads. That is my faith, and that is my belief. So I began by asking our board to imagine that we were at a meeting in 1825, not far from here in Boston. It's a meeting of a group called the Anonymous Club. And so we imagined that we were there with 44 of our Unitarian minister friends and lay leaders, and under discussion was whether or not the Anonymous Club should become an association or a convention, some gathering of people who would hold the cause of Unitarianism in common. There was no such meeting or association before that, and this meeting was not without contention. It began with the arguments for association, which were pretty clear and pretty strong. It was said that eventually Unitarians are going to want to have institutions that we should protect and support, theological schools among them. And it was noted that congregations will want special help and assistance that only an association could provide. But this was by no means a clear win, because there were arguments against association, and strong ones. The main argument against association was the belief that Unitarianism should always be propagated slowly and silently. Frankly, the concern was growth. The assumption was that growth was a bad and dangerous thing. So as the meeting went on, the argument went back and forth. One gentleman noticed that the absence of so many people from the meeting clearly indicated that people were in favor of association. Another gentleman noticed that the absence of so many people from the meeting clearly indicated the opposite. A letter was read from the Unitarian governor of Massachusetts saying, I think we've already done enough for this Unitarian thing. We might as well move on. Well, it was finally decided to adjourn. The decision of the meeting was to have yet another meeting. And so very slowly, meeting by meeting, we creeped into existence. And so the American Unitarian Association was formed in May of 1825. It was given birth to with a barely light whimper and with possibly the lowest APGAR score you could imagine. So I've asked us to imagine us looking in on that meeting. Now I'd like to reverse that and think about what our forefathers would think if they could see us now. Because I am thinking they can only see that their concerns about association were entirely justified. You see, in that original meeting, the concern about growth, it was concern that if we grow, if we make ourselves visible, that we will attract the wrong people. And as I imagine our forefathers imagining us, I can only come to the conclusion that they were right. We are entirely the wrong people. They did not dream us into being. Many of us are not of the class that they would have imagined and welcomed. Some of us have personal identities that they would have found absolutely unfathomable. And theology, we are different in theology from them. Even if you identify as Christian, I promise you, your Christianity is not of the form that they expressed. They had a very unique blend of Christian ideas and 19th century Scottish moral philosophy, which among other things said that the social order, the way it is the way it is supposed to be. No, they did not imagine us at all. So who gave us the invitation? We are here because we have had an invitation to join in, to be together, and to associate. But where did that invitation come from? And so here's where I have to confess that my inspiration for this message came from the Swedish vampire movie, The let the right ones in. Oh, I love this movie. At the center of the movie is Oscar. He's a 12-year-old boy who's having a terrible time in school. He's being bullied for his gender expression. But he finally makes a friend. He meets a girl that looks to be about his same age, Ellie, in the courtyard of his apartment building, and they strike up a real friendship. Oscar's incredibly moved when Ellie tells him that she never celebrates her birthday, and so he gets her a birthday present. He shares with her his precious Rubik's Cube, and they develop a very deep friendship. Of course, it turns out that Ellie is the vampire, and so we have to have the culminating scene of any vampire film. Ellie comes to Oscar to ask to be let in, to be asked to be let into his home, and of course, in this case, into his heart. And so she comes to him and she says, "I'm not a girl." And she means two things by that. She does have an unusual gender expression. She is not biologically female, and she's not human. Will Oscar let her in? Now, if this were a typical vampire movie, this would be the total groaner moment, where our hero accidentally lets in the vampire, who of course proves to be evil. But this is not a typical vampire movie at all. So he lets her in, and in the final scene of the movie, we see Oscar happy riding a train with a large basket at his feet. Eventually we hear a knocking from the basket, and we hear Ellie's voice asking for a kiss. It's a strange and kind of dark ending. In fact, I've heard that the Americans who are remaking this film for audiences here have decided that the ending is just too strange and ironic for us Americans to handle. But you know, I loved that ending. I love that ending because I actually relate to Ellie. Someone has given me an invitation to be here. Someone has given me an invitation when even our founders could not have imagined me. I nonetheless had this invitation to participate. When things have been bad, when I've been bad, this tradition has been there. It's offered me its big basket, and it's carried me around, and it keeps asking me over and over again if I don't want to be just a little more human. So where did that invitation come from? I think there's actually a specific answer to that, but that's not our concern right now. What I would like to do right now is just invoke that spirit of openness, because there is a spirit of openness that moves through this living tradition in spite of the efforts to squelch it, in spite of our leadership that did not desire it. It moves through us, and it moves us, and it has welcomed us. So I would like to invoke that spirit. So Spirit, I hope you will remind us. I hope you will remind us that we are the wrong people, and that as the wrong people, it is our obligation to look for and to invite as many other wrong people as we can imagine into our groups. I hope you will remind us that we do have a tradition that can extend this invitation of humanity to all who want it and to all who can hear it. And I hope when we're weak, you will remind us that we are the desired children of loving parents, and that this tradition has been given to us, and that people before us have died and given their hearts so that we might have this opportunity to be together. So I hope you'll join with me in blowing the doors of our congregations and our association as wide open as possible.